Okay, we are live. Let's kick off. Ask me anything. First of all, what's up, everybody? Hope everyone's Thursday is off to just a phenomenal start. It is February, right? Yep, February 12th, 2026. I should probably get a Valentine's Day card for my wife now that I think of the date. Yep, that should probably happen. Okay, so we're going to dive in. Got about 10 or 11 topics to cover from the private Facebook group as well as the squad in the BTWB app for Linchpin. But of course, we've got some shout outs first. So let's start off with the shout outs. And then some really cool stuff also about those very not random cycles. Yes, they are coming and they are worth the wait. So, first shout out. Why is this not opening? Okay, here it is. From Justin G. So this was, remember a little while ago, we did that just innocent little couplet called Heavy Fran. It was 15, 12, 9 of a 135-pound thruster for men, 95 pounds for women, paired with a weighted pull-up, 45 pounds for men, and I think 30 for women, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Justin went ahead and knocked that out in 7 minutes and 39 seconds, which, if you're not sure how that is, that scored him a level 94 on BTWB, which is crazy. So, what does level 94 mean? That means if 100 people did that workout, only 6 would have been faster than him. That's what level 94 means. That's pretty impressive. Melanie, I see you. Lane's hair looked good. Thank you. That was a challenging. Thank you. I should just say thank you. There's all I can see is what I didn't like about it, but thank you. All right. Next shout out. Two more shout outs, and we'll get into the topics today. Let's see. From Michael D. Okay, this is cool. He says, a tribute to the Leo programming. That's LEO, which stands for Limited Equipment Option, which is the dumbbell option. So every day that we present a workout for Linchpin, there's a dumbbell option called the limited equipment option. And I always say that you will not be shortchanged, even if you just did the dumbbells for the rest of your life and nothing else. And here's what Michael says. Tribute to the Leo programming. I touched a barbell today for the first time in 18 months. So he's been doing dumbbells only for a year and a half. And so he hasn't been able to touch anything heavier than a pair of 50-pound dumbbells, period, end of story. His wife happened to be in a competition. He was there watching, and there was a warm-up area, and there was a barbell. So he said he did a quick ladder of lifts to get in a warm-up, and he managed a 100 kilo power clean and jerk. So 220 pounds with only touching a pair of 50-pound dumbbells for 18 months. He kept a 100 kilogram power clean and jerk in the tank. So when I say that you're not going to be shortchanged by the dumbbells, we're not joking. The dumbbells are fantastic. Final shout out before we get into the topics from Justin D. This was also recently when we did Ingrid classic named CrossFit workout, which is 10 rounds for time, 3 power snatches, 135 for men, 95 pounds for women, and 3 burpees over the bar, 10 rounds of 3 and 3. And he executed that in 5 minutes and 48 seconds, which was a 24-second PR compared to the last time he did it. And you're talking a workout that's less than 6 minutes, like a 24-second PR is a large percentage. Like, that's a big improvement. And that scored him a level 91 in BTWB. So very cool. All right. Let's get right into it. So we've got a couple questions relating to the varied not random cycle. So I think I should dive into those first and just kind of get them all out of the way, because I think that's the topic that's probably on top of most people's minds. So the varied not random cycles, I spoke with the BTWB team today as they're in the series of launching this, because if you're a member of Linchpin, you're going to get all the varied not random cycles for free, just for free, have unlimited access to them. And I'm not techie. I don't know. I can barely turn on my computer, but as they integrate this and make it free to everybody, certain bugs are popping up, and then they're squashing and fixing those bugs as they stress test the system. And so it's pending. I'm sorry. We all thought it'd be, available to everybody by now, but it is looming in the near future. So I know it's probably driving some people crazy. But here's what you're going to get. Okay. And these cycles, by the way, each one previously was like $30 a pop. And by the way, worth every penny of those. When you add them all up, this is over a $600 value that members of the Linchpin community are just going to get for free. So, by the way, if you want to join Linchpin and be a part, as far as I'm concerned, the coolest community in the world, there will be go to the show notes in this YouTube video. You can click on that link, get a 30-day free trial. You can go to CrossFitLynchpin.com, click on the tab marked private track, go to our Instagram account, that link, all that good stuff. But here are the varied, not random cycles that you're going to get access to. And I'm going to spend some time today after I list them, kind of explaining how each one is different, how you might use it. There are 3 different on-ramp programs. So think about like if you just joined a gym and you'd partake in an on-ramp program. There's a barbell on-ramp program, a dumbbell on-ramp program, and a body weight movements on-ramp program. Fantastic. Then there's a jump rope program, which is amazing, and it just will teach you single unders, double unders, running step singles, arm crossovers, and way more. And so everybody wants to get better at the jump rope. That program's phenomenal. There is a run, bike, row course. So you want to bump up that engine or whatever it happens to be. That is has been super popular. It's 12 weeks long. And the cool thing about that is you can pick your poison. You could do all 12 weeks and just do it as a run program or just a bike or just a row. But each day we give you the run option, the bike option, and the row option. So you could mix it up every day if you so desired. And I believe that's 5 sessions a week, everything from short to long to steady state to interval training to days of recommended high intensity, days of recommended low intensity. So that's a very excellent program. So that's going to be there. And then there's a whole bunch of things that fall under the bucket of get your first. And these are anywhere from 6 to 8 week cycles to help you get your first strict pull up, get your first kipping pull up. I'm going to stop saying get your first. They're all get your first. First kipping bar muscle up, first strict ring muscle up, first push up, first strict ring dip, first strict handstand push up, first toes to bar, and first 5 feet of handstand walking. Fantastic. Then there's a bunch of capacity programs with the good old barbell. There's a clean 1 rep max capacity. I'm going to stop saying capacity because they all say capacity. Clean 1 rep max, jerk 1 rep max, snatch 1 rep max, back squat, deadlift, shoulder press, bench press, and more will be added. Think about, well, I'll discuss those in a second. So, anyway, those are all coming your way seamlessly. So, it's going to be fantastic. Okay. Let me read the various questions that related to the cycles, and then I'll just try to answer them all together. So let's see. Okay, I'll tackle them one at a time. How about that? From Allison, she says, "Oh no, sorry, that's a different one. Sorry, different one." Oh, okay. When are the varied, not random cycles going to be included with Linchpin? Is there a promo code? Really excited to add these in from Chris K. So soon, like I said, they're dealing with a bug. It could be any day now, hopefully by sometime next week, but they're working on it. It's pending in the near future. There won't be a promo code. As soon as it's live for Linchpin, it's just live and you can access them. And I'll let everybody know when that's the case. From Dan C. Thanks for the VNR announcement, which stands for Varied Not Random. Could you and would you work in the varied not random cycles with regular Linchpin programming? How might this look and are there any mistakes to avoid? Okay, so I'll answer the first question. Would I work in the varied not random with the regular Linchpin programming? If you're asking me if I'm going to add it to the daily programming, that's a no. If you're asking me, could you work it in? That's a yes. And when you say, how might this look and are there any mistakes to avoid? So some of these things can be done very nicely in conjunction with just following Linchpin as you've been following it forever. And some are more like side quests. Okay. And so, for example, let's say that you joined Linchpin uh, and then you're like, you know what? I rushed into this. I'm working out by myself in my garage. I never got to do an on ramp program. I'm gonna just do the barbell on ramp program for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So you could just, you're still a part of Linchpin, but you just upload it to your BTW app. You activate that barbell on ramp cycle. That's what you do for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then you come right back in. So that could be done like, kind of that would replace them, so to speak, and then you come right back. And you never leave Linchpin. Again, this is all just like in an ecosystem that you're just in there and you're just choosing what you want to do each day. You could do, for example, the jump rope program. You've got options with something like that. You could just immerse yourself that, and I can't remember how long it is. Let's say it's 10 weeks. You could immerse yourself in that fully because that has jump rope training and skills that you're working on, but it also has like they provide workouts as well. Um, I would recommend that you, if you want to stick with getting, fitter, faster, and stronger to the utmost of your ability, stick with the linchpin workouts and then follow that jump rope cycle. Do whatever the skill training is that day and the progressions. And you could do that along with the linchpin workouts. Just add that jump rope cycle 2 to 3 times a week. Good to go. The run, bike, row program, that could be done as just, hey, you know what? That could be done either way. That could be like, "Hey, I've been just training hard for like 6 or 7 years. I just wanna take like a break, and for the next 12 weeks, I'm gonna be just Johnny Endurance." And you just upload that cycle to your phone, to your laptop, whatever, and you just follow that, and you come back in 12 weeks. Now, you haven't lifted or done anything, so it could be a rough re-entry, or you could make some sort of a hybrid deal where you're gonna add in 2 or 3 of those run, bike, or row sessions a week, and you're gonna do 3 linchpin sessions a week, which is so you'll just be doing linchpin with, like, an endurance focus if that's what you wanted to do for about 12 weeks, so you could do that. Then all of those ones that are under the get your first, you're gonna get your first 5 feet of handstand walking. You're gonna get your first strict pull-up, your first push-up, whatever that happens to be. That can be done just while you're doing however it is that you're doing linchpin right now. You're doing the regular workout, the wild card, the scale, the Leo. You do something different each day. You're making good decisions. And then your goal is to learn how to walk on your hands. So you add the handstand walk capacity, get your first 5 feet of handstand walk. And when you do something like that, let's say that cycles 6 or 8 weeks long, you get to choose how many times a week you add that to your training schedule. So you could add 2 sessions of that handstand walk, or it could be the pull-up program or the push-up program, whatever. You're gonna do it twice a week, or you're gonna do it 3 times a week. So you get to control the volume, which is really nice. And if you're unsure as to how demanding that might be, and if you could tolerate it, then you would err on the side of less initially. You would just put in 2 sessions, 2 of those handstand walk sessions a week, and maybe you would do those before or after the workout. If it was your huge goal and focus, well, then do it before the workout because that's when you're fresh. If you normally do some accessory work, well, then maybe you replace the accessory work twice a week with this. Get your first 5 feet of handstand walking. If you're looking to get your first pull up, you could just choose, let's say, 2 sessions a week or 3 sessions a week, add that to your workout calendar. And then, we generally do upper body pulling twice a week with Linchpin. What I would do is I would schedule 2 of those get your first pull up sessions on days that we have upper body pulling. And then then either just keep it to that or do the third on a day during the week that, we don't have upper body pulling. I wouldn't schedule, I guess what I'm saying with something like the upper body pulling and get your first pull up, I wouldn't schedule that on all the days that we don't do upper body pulling because then you're never actually giving those muscle groups a rest. So if we are going to do pull ups on one day and rope climbs on a different day, that's, 2 upper body pulls that week. And there's 5 training days. You're like, okay, well, I'm not going to schedule it on those days. I'm going to put in 3 get your first pull ups training sessions on the other 3 training days. Well, now you're doing upper body pulling 5 days a week, and your muscles, to the stress that you put on them, adapt, recover, and grow and get stronger when you allow them to rest. So if you did that, you're never actually allowing those muscle groups to rest. And that's why I would put something like that, get your first pull up, as something to do before the workout or after the workout as an accessory session on the same days that we're doing upper body pulling, and then add in one more day a week if you wanted to, so that on the high side, you'd be doing 3 sessions of upper body pulling a week. And I would use that general guide if you're looking to get your first push up, your first toes to bar, whatever it happened to be. Then, of course, there's the barbell stuff. Now, some of these um, are kind of standalone programs, like the clean, the jerk, and the snatch. Those are more, they're not like, kind of think like Wendler, not exactly like Wendler, but meaning you could do them. They're just some lifting. So you could add them a couple of times a week in addition to Linchpin if that's what you wanted to do, and just listen to your body and see, does it tolerate it well? Then, three of them specifically, I believe it is the back squat, the deadlift, and then either the shoulder press and or bench press. A few of those are 8 weeks long, and they have well thought out workouts in there as well. That were those workouts were come up with. They were created by Mateo and myself, with a bias towards the deadlift, with a bias towards the back squat. And so for 8 weeks, if you just want to be like, you know what, I love the back squat, I love the deadlift, and that's just I want to have a bit of a bias for that for the next 8 weeks, but I don't want to lose my fitness. Okay, those would work well, where you could just do those for the next 8 weeks because we've got other movements as well. It's not just a lifting program. And then you could, come back 8 weeks later and enjoy. And so hopefully that helps kind of demystify some of those things. Let me see. I believe there was another question or two about these, and I want to get all the very not random questions out of the way, and then I'll dive in to the other ones here. So I'm looking in the squad right now. Do, 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 do. That's not one. That's not one. Okay, from Travis B. Now with the varied not random programs being free, how can I follow one and do the Linchpin workouts without burning out? Okay, so hopefully that was addressed. All right, let's get into the actual questions. Here we go. That was all the varied not random info. First question from Brian T. How would you manage a running interval day when all we have access to is your typical hotel treadmill? Okay, well, I wouldn't if it's a running interval day. Let's say it's 6 400-meter repeats, depending upon how accurate that treadmill is. But most of them, you can get them to run, let's say, a quarter of a mile on. I would just now, I don't like running on treadmills. My speed varies a little bit. It's uncomfortable. You may not be able to get the most ideal training session in there. And I think most of those treadmills go to like 10 miles an hour. So there's a really good chance that on something like a 6 by 400-meter run day, you're not going to be faster than the treadmill. And so I would just start that sucker up, and hold whatever pace, smashing the buttons as you're running and hyperventilating you can to cover 0.25 miles, and then you can walk for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever your recovery is, and do it again. Now, if it's something like 10 by 100-meter repeats, where if you're on the fast side, there's a good chance that for a 100-meter repeat, you actually are faster than what the treadmill could do. Okay, well, then you know what? Let's just modify it in one way, shape, or form. Let's say that treadmill maxes out at 10 miles an hour and you're going to be running at, I don't know, 14 or 15 miles an hour or 60, you're super fast. Well, then what I would do is I would get it up to speed. Don't hurt yourself. Don't become an internet meme where you fly off the treadmill. Get it up to whatever the fastest is that you can tolerate. Let's say it's 10 miles an hour. And if I'm just making up numbers here, a 100-meter run would have taken you 15 seconds, but you'd be running faster than 10 miles an hour. So now when you cover 100 meters and you still have more in the tank, well, then I would just run at that max treadmill speed. You'd be quite a spectacle for what is appropriately challenging for you. So maybe it's not 15 seconds, maybe it's 25 seconds. And then you're like, I got to stop this thing. Maybe it's 35 seconds, maybe it's 40 seconds. At some point in time, you won't be able to hold that max pace and you'll stop. And that would just become your interval, so you would just play with the speed, you would play with the distance, and it wouldn't be a 10 by 100 by the letter of the law, but you would do 10 very high intensity runs at the highest speed that you could handle safely on that treadmill for whatever amount of time brought you to your safe limit before you had to stop and then rest and recover. So that's how I would do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Shoot a video. It will be amazing. Gustav B. I recently read an old journal article that's in the L1 guide about the importance of focusing on mastery of the basics and going back to them regularly to really perfect them. In your mind, what are the basics and fundamentals, and how would you go about focusing on them as part of the program? So I think the general concept there is a good one and still holds true today, which is I think human beings in general, whether it's physical fitness, whether it's fill in the blank, playing a sport, playing an instrument, learning a language, people just have a desire, I think, to want to rush advancement because the basics seem dull, the basics seem boring, and everybody wants to do the really cool, fancy, high speed, low drag stuff ASAP. And what most of us don't realize is the boring basics done over and over again with as much virtuosity as possible build a profoundly strong base from which you can then do the complicated stuff. So, with regards to just kind of generally working out as we do strength and conditioning, what's the basic stuff? Push ups, strict pull ups, strict dips, just a static handstand hold, whether that's against a wall or open room. How's your plank? How's your air squat? Work on getting your air squat as beautiful as possible, but the air squat can be boring, right? Everybody wants to say, check out my back squat, check out my squat snatch, check out my whatever it happens to be. Nobody just posts photos of their air squat. That doesn't get likes on Instagram, but that's the foundation of everything that you're going to do later on. Just your classic deadlift. Master to the best of your ability, jumping rope, the shoulder press, like all those basic moves that from which we're going to eventually add complexity. We're going to add volume. We're going to add load. We're going to add intensity. But there can be just the desire for human beings to rush through the basics because I want to learn the push jerk, whatever it happens to be. And so just spending time and never losing sight that those basics are so mission critical is huge. And this has been a bit of I mean, I knew it, but it's good to have these things brought back to your attention every now and then. As I mentioned on previous shows, my daughter, who's 4.5, she's in gymnastics. She just goes once a week at that age, but it's a pretty big gymnastics facility in the area that has put people to the highest levels. And when she's there, all the other age groups are there. And what I'm always struck with is the very simple little basics that she does on the balance beam, walking on her tippy toes or walking backwards or doing donkey kicks or trying like all the basics that a 4.5-year-old is doing. When you look into the huge gym and you see the kids that are 4 years older than that, the kids that are early teens, the kids that are whatever, like they're all actually still doing the same things. And now those older ones have advanced with complexity, but they still do the basics and they've done literally years and years and tens of thousands of boring, repetitive reps of the basics. And that gave them the body awareness and the strength and the stability to add high degrees of complexity and intensity and volume. But most of us just want to rush into being an advanced athlete, and that's not how it works. And so I think that's just a good lesson for most of us to keep in the back of our head. Allison, is there a video on how to approach the accessory work? Oftentimes I want to do them to get better/stronger overall, but after the workout, I'm afraid I'll be even more sore using similar muscle groups. Should I do them before the workout or as a second session at a later time, or should I do them on rest days? For example, Monday's workout felt taxing on my midline, so I didn't do the hollow rocks. Tuesday's workout, I thought I'd do the pistol squats after the lunges, but my glutes were already feeling it. Any help is appreciated. Fantastic questions. And so, first of all, I say this all the time, and I think it bears repeating. No one has to do accessory work to be perfectly fine on planet Earth, to be an amazing pinnacle of health. If you just do the workout of the day and you scale it if you need to in any way, shape, or form, you just make a smart decision. You warm up, you do the workout of the day, nothing else. You do it to the best of your ability. You cool down, you go home, and you eat well. You are superhuman. You really are. It's not hyperbole. It's not. I mean, just go, just show up to your physician for your annual checkup as somebody who's in good shape with a high degree of muscle mass and good body composition. And they'll be like, wow, you're not the typical person that I see walking here. You'll be a superhero. Okay, so the accessory work It is truly optional. It really is. And for most people, the workout of the day, if you just pour your heart and soul into it, you're going to probably be just fine. But okay, if you want to do it, cool. How should it be approached? I like to say if you're interested in doing the accessory work, just like anything else, I wouldn't just dive right in because for the uninitiated, it can be a significant dose. And so if there's 5 workouts each week, maybe just try the accessory work on 2 out of the 5 days. That's it. And then do that for a couple weeks and see how does your body feel. Was it too much? And on those 2 days as you decide to do it, you don't necessarily have to do all of the accessory work. Maybe you cut the reps in half, like you do this crawl, walk, run, test the waters deal, because you want, if you choose to do the accessory work, for it to be additive to your strength and conditioning. If it's too much for you, then you won't be able to show up for the regular workout of the day and bring the heat and bring intensity. And if you're doing something which degrades your intensity for just the regular primary workout of the day, then that is not helping you. And so that's why I would say tread lightly, scale, reduce, crawl, walk, run. You could also check out the accessory work and maybe you just cherry pick it based upon some things that you know that you need work on. Your midline's a bit weak, and so you favor those days and you skip the other accessory work. You want to work on your upper body pulling, and so you embrace those days and blow off the other. It's below parallel strength is somewhere that you need to be. So you could do that as well. You don't necessarily need to do all of it every day. So that's another thing that I would keep in mind. You're on to something, and the answer, Allison, lies in your question. So let's see. Um, should I do them before or as a second session or at a later time or on rest days? I wouldn't recommend doing it on rest days because your body needs rest. Should I do them before or after? Generally speaking, I would say after because the main course that you want to apply your utmost attention, intensity, focus, have a fresh central nervous system for is the workout of the day. So I would say that should be your primary focus. And then doing it afterwards, like if you got to take a little bit of a break and you wanted to give it a try, take a break if your schedule allows. Great. It may not have to be something which is done with an incredible intensity, right? Like let's say it's, I don't know, um, 5 sets of Turkish get up. Okay, well, you don't have to like try to blitz through them with like no rest between every set. And so, yes, it's intense because you might choose a load on the Turkish get up, which is challenging, but you don't have to rush into the next set. So maybe you just rest a couple minutes, play on your phone, and then you do the next one, rest a couple minutes. And then that built in break allows you to do that. It doesn't have to like just crush yourself with the accessory work. No, don't get me wrong. Some of the accessory work is kind of for time, might be 50 calories in the air bike or something like that. You're right with the similar muscle groups, and it just depends upon what you can tolerate. And that kind of relates to what I said earlier about the very not random cycles, which is if we think about like below parallel, you've got to let certain muscle groups rest. And so the accessory work will most likely mirror movement patterns that we did in the workout of the day if you can take some extra volume and loading, whatever it happens to be. Because if we went below parallel on Monday and Friday, and then had below parallel accessory work on 2 other days, so then we're going below parallel on 4 out of 5 days of training. That's not gonna help anybody. We gotta let those muscles rest for a bit, and so that's why you're gonna see it similar patterns, similar muscles on those days, which is why, again, make sure you're built up to it, scale as needed. Um, and it also sounds to me like I don't know if you feel like you need to do it, there's a difference between want and need. But if the regular workout of the day and you got after it smokes you a little bit, there's no need to smoke yourself more. You might just be in that phase of your training where that's plenty for you. So you said, for example, Monday's workout felt taxing on my midline, so I didn't do the hollow rocks. Great decision, right? I mean, if the midline workout was taxing as it is, and you're like, whoo, that was a lot. Well, let me go do some more. You don't need to do that. For example, and then on the other day, you said like the lunges really got you. Like, everyone suffered from some burnt biscuits. Well, there's no need to go and do some pistols, right? So again, it kind of meets you where you're at. But if you are interested, crawl, walk, run, do it just a couple times, reduce everything, see how it treats you, and then gently scale up from there. Okay, let's see. Chris B. I watched Linchpin Conversations episode 44. Wow, 44. What is today's episode? Is 600 and something. So, wow, episode 44 regarding the L1. I was wondering if you're still suggesting it in 2026, especially the online version. I don't have any experience with the online version, pros and cons, so I can't speak to that. The L1, it's not cheap, it's north of $1,000. And so everything's a decision as to what you want to do with your time, your money, or whatnot. And what do you want to get out of it? Do you have intentions of coaching? Um, if so, wonderful. If you're just bored for a weekend, you don't know what to do with 1,100 bucks, whatever it is, I'm not saying that that's wrong. You want to have an in-person experience and interact with some like-minded people and get some hands on you. Like it's a great experience. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people who attend to level one truly enjoy it. Um, so it just depends upon what your goals are and what you want to accomplish. And probably one of the largest ones is whether or not you have an interest in coaching. Although there's plenty of people that attend the L1 that don't ever intend on being coaches, quite frankly. Wow, episode 44, that's crazy. Jan M. If you had to choose between having a pull-up bar or just a pair of rings, what would be your choice for a home gym? You can't have both. Oh man, these questions. He says in real life you can, but you're ruled out for now. And once again, thanks for the program. So my initial thing was just to say pull-up bar without thinking about it too much. But then as I thought about it more, um, and maybe I'm taking your fictitious question here because we can't have both too far. But if I just had a pull-up bar and nothing else, or just rings and nothing else, period, end of story, no resistance bands, no nothing, then I would probably take the rings, just because I can't really change the height of the pull-up bar, but I can adjust the rings. And so I can do strict pull-ups on the rings if I so desire. I can do low ring muscle ups. I can do dips. I can do ring rows. I can do ring push-ups. I can, what did I just want to say there? It's gone. But basically, adjust the height as needed. And so that I can use as much or as little leg as possible. I could do like a version of Aussie pull-ups with them. So I could build towards a strict muscle up. I could build towards a strict dip because I could set the height and an ability that allow me to use my legs. I could do, lower the rings and use as much leg as needed to build towards my first strict pull up. I could change my body's angle of on ring rows and things like that. And so there's just so much versatility that I would probably choose the rings, which is interesting because that wasn't the first thing that came to my mind. Jacqueline H. This goes along the line of the accessory question, but I want to get a base of pull ups this year. I know we work them at least once a week and I make them hard, but I feel like I should be doing more. If I add a pull up program that is 3 to 4 days of work a week, should I scale the workouts to keep from burning out, or could you provide suggestions on how to incorporate skill programs? I only have 60 minutes on weekday mornings, so not unlimited time. Would it be okay to do this on rest days, or should I reduce other work? So, Jacqueline, your goal right there, you are a prime candidate for if you're talking about getting, I'm not sure if you're talking about getting more strict pull-ups or your first strict pull-up. If you're talking about getting your first strict pull-up, then I would do, once they're available, which should be soon, that very not random get your first strict pull-up. I think that would treat you very well. You could add it in 2 to 3 times a week, takes all the thought out of it, and you're good to go. If you already have one or two strict pull-ups and you're looking to get more, then there's nothing wrong. And if your body can tolerate it, like there's going to be a bit of experimentation, because if you had 10 athletes, based upon those 10 athletes' fitness background and lifestyle and how much sleep they get and everything else that they do, they're all going to tolerate kind of a bit of a different amount of work. So you might have to find out, and that could be through also making a mistake, how many times a week can you do some upper body pulling? And it's appropriately challenging for you, yet it gives you the rest you need, and you don't have to compromise any other aspects of your fitness. I don't think you would need to bump it to 4 times a week. I would think if this was a big goal for you, 3 times a week should be totally good to go. Like I said, we'll generally do upper body pulling twice a week. And if on those days you make it as challenging as you possibly can, and then you added a third day a week that either before or after the workout, you did whatever it was, ring rows, Aussie pull ups, banded pull ups, static holds, negatives, that could be totally fine. But let yourself be your guide. I personally wouldn't do it on rest days. I would give yourself rest. And like I said, I think you can do it without having to reduce any of the other work, and you should be able to do it within a 60-minute window for sure. Let's see. Michael M. What are your thoughts on the use of lifting wrist straps during heavy deadlift days? For example, on our recent heavy deadlift day of 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, that was a real treat, wasn't it? I found my grip starting to fade toward the end of the set of 12. By the third set, I was grip limited and only got 5 before dropping the bar, even though I felt the reps in reserve to complete the 9. Then I used less weight than I felt capable of for the final 2 sets. My sense is given the primary intended stimulus of strengthening the posterior chain, improving core stability, and maintaining bone density, the use of straps would support those objectives if we can still lift the heavier load with good form. You're generally right on topic right there, by the way. What do you think, pros and cons? So, on top of all the things you just said that the deadlift does from a health and fitness and a strength and conditioning standpoint, grip strength is also in there as well. However, as a general guideline, now we're assuming that, like you said, all your other points of performance have not degraded. They are good to go, they are safe, they're within tolerance, and you're happy with them. If if then your grip on a strength day, such as the one you mentioned, becomes the limiting factor of you being able to continue and lift the load, everything else is rock solid in your form, then I would have no problem with you pushing your grip as far as you can, because we also want to work the grip strength. And then when your grip becomes the limiting factor and you break out some reps and you lift the remaining reps with those, I've got no drama with that in any way, shape, or form. I think your general thesis is solid and good to go. Let's see. We answered that one. We answered that. It was about very not random. Patrick Starks, will it be a VNR t-shirt? I, don't- I don't know. We don't have a merch guy. We need a merch guy. Okay, let's see. Aaron L. Let me get a drink of water here. Yeah, yeah, Michael. My pleasure, sir. Aaron, such a great question here. This was the what I decided to name this episode. I'm 47 years old. 7 years ago, I was heavily involved with Linchpin. Because of some personal issues and injuries, I have not been working out really in any way. I'm basically starting over, old and beat up. What is the best way to come back to avoid injury? I realize scaling is the answer, but that's always been one of those answers that I hear that doesn't always answer the question. Where should where should we be when scaling? All blown up, just barely breaking a sweat to start, somewhere in between. Thanks. First of all, great question. Also, Aaron, not sure what happened. Like you said, you had some personal issues, some life stuff came up. We haven't seen you in 7 years. Welcome back, my friend. Okay. You're always just one day away from getting back on track with your health and fitness. And that's just not gobbledygook hallmark card nonsense. It's true. You're one meal away from getting back on track with your nutrition. You're one day away from getting back on track with your strength conditioning. So, welcome back, my friend. As you know, or maybe you remember, lean on this community. Lean on it. That is Linchpin's superpower. Either in the Linchpin squad there in the BTWB app, like where you posted this, or in the private Facebook group. You're having a bad day, you need some guidance, you got a question, post that question. Our community is top notch, supportive, friendly, and intelligent, and everyone needs a helping hand every now and then. So post it. Okay. Generally speaking, you describe, not my words, you describe yourself as old and beat up, okay, and starting over. So, given that, yes, just saying that you need to scale is potentially an unsatisfying answer, but it is just the truth, my friend. But you don't have to just scale one thing. You can scale one thing or you can scale multiple things. On any particular workout, if it's a mixed modality workout, you could keep the reps the same and the movements the same, and you scale the loading. Okay. You could keep the loading the same and you scale the reps. Okay. You could keep the loading the same and the reps the same, but you scale the complexity of the movement because you're not there yet. You have no front rack position, so you back squat. You can't power clean comfortably, so you do a deadlift into a hang power clean. Like, there are things we can do to reduce the complexity as well. So you could scale or reduce any single one of those things, or two of them, or three of them, or however many there are. My goal for you, if you're coming back and you want this to be a good experience, you've got the rest of your life to stick with this thing, right? You don't have to make up the last 7 years in the next 30 days of training. So don't try to do that. I think that would be negligent, potentially injurious, and just an overall bad decision that will likely lead to a low level of compliance. We want you to have a high level of compliance. So, my goal for you for at least the next 30 days, if not the next 60 days, okay, whatever's right for you, is at the end of, let's say, the next 30 days, you finish the workout. Now, I don't mean that you shouldn't get your heart rate above 51. Okay, like I'm not saying that. But I would want you to feel the next day when you wake up like you didn't overdo it. Okay, I know that's an oversimplified way to say it, but basically, like, you know what? I feel pretty good. I feel like I could have, got after it a little bit more yesterday. I could have done a little bit more load in the back squat. I could have pushed a little bit hard in those lunges, whatever it happens to be. Leave yourself wanting a little bit more, um, and do that for a month. And then after a month, don't necessarily ratchet up if you're training 5 days a week every single solitary day and go from 0 to 100. But if you've been, let's take this for example. You're going to keep the loads the same and the reps the same. What you're going to scale is the intensity of the workouts. So for the next 30 days, you just are, you do Fran at 95 pounds with pull-ups. It just takes you 22 minutes because you did it at low intensity. It took a long time. That's what I'm saying. Went out for a 2 mile run, and maybe back in the day you could hold an 8 minute mile. So do that in 16 minutes. And you did a lot of stopping and starting and jogging and walking, and it took you 20 minutes, took you 25 minutes. I don't care, whatever it took you. You kept the workouts the same, but you lowered the intensity. Do that for 30 days. Well, then on day 31, when you start the next time, what could we do? You're going to keep the workouts the same. It's still 5 days a week, but now on 2 out of the 5 days, you're going to get into some moderate intensity, and you're going to do that for 2 weeks. How do you feel? Do you still have that good soreness and not that train wreck soreness that I overdid it? Great. Okay, then maybe what you do for a couple weeks after that is out of the 5 training days, two are low intensity, two are moderate, and one you're going to push to high intensity. You're going to do that for a couple weeks. How does that feel? And then, for the next 2 weeks, you're going to do two high intensity days and, two low, one moderate. You're going to play, and you could play that same game, that same incremental stair step progression game. You could play that game with intensity. You could play it with loading. You could play it with rep schemes. You could play it with one or all of them. And that is what I would do. I would set yourself up for success. I would crawl, walk, run, and I would let your number one goal be consistency. 100% stack bricks, my friends. What we say, Linchpin. You're building a wall of fitness, and you're stacking bricks every day to make that wall as thick and as high and as strong as possible. And so, just get in there and stack bricks and lean on this community. Let's see, but no, you should not be all blown up. You should not be all blown up, and you should not be just barely breaking a sweat. Get yourself a little uncomfortable. Okay, get yourself a little uncomfortable. Not catastrophically so. It's been 7 years. Let's see. Megan P. Just joined today. Boom. Welcome aboard. Megan, welcome aboard. First day of the rest of your life. Remote CrossFit background, but haven't done it in a while. I did beep for a bit. That was another program. I didn't want to say the name. I've been focusing mostly on climbing. Oh, that's cool. But wanted something to get me consistently back into strength training with some cardio. There you go. My question: is there somewhere that lists a goal time for the workouts to have an idea of desired intensity? I did the scaled version, want to get back in, want to make sure I don't miss it, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. So, if you, so first of all, if you haven't already, So since you just joined today, today is a Thursday. Go into the BTWB app on every Monday, okay? On any day that there's a training day, you'll see like the daily videos, okay? But on every Monday, I attach a video that's entitled New to Linchpin, watch this first. And so go to any Monday that you want, next Monday, for example, click on Monday's training, go to the video section and watch the New to Linchpin video. And that will answer and provide you so much backstory and context. But short answer to your question is absolutely yes. There are goal times given. And if you have not, again, since it's just day one for you, on every training day, I attach in the app a daily video that I make that talks about the day's training, the intended stimulus, and to the best of my ability, I try to give you some good just general guidelines and some ideas as to why we're doing that workout that maybe just don't leap off the paper at you to help you make the best decision possible for you. So in addition to watching that New to Linchpin video, watch the daily video for each training day. I think you'll find it very, very additive to your experience. And day one, so maybe you don't know yet, but again, like I said before, the community is top notch. You've got a question, you don't understand something, post it. If you're on Facebook, join the Lynchpin private Facebook group, and you'll be good to go. All right, let's see. A few more questions. Oh, okay. This one from uh, Siren C. Looking at getting on the Run by Grow program. Do you know when the VNR programs become available? Tomorrow's Friday, so I'm just hoping. I'm hoping next week. It should be soon, my friend. Let's see. Kyle J. Hey, coach, first week with the program after taking some time off at a traditional box, and I'm really enjoying it. I've been listening to your podcast and soaking it all in. Do you have any podcast episodes or recommendations on for nutrition plans? I'm not a heavy person now, but I'm always up for changing some things around to ensure that my body is staying energized and that the summer bod doesn't turn into a full-on dad bod. I hear you, my friend. My general recommendation for all things nutrition is a podcast called Optimize Me Nutrition. Eva Claire Sinkowski, EC Sinkowski, is the woman who runs that. She's phenomenal. And I think she has a very linchpin esque approach, but to nutrition. No nonsense, no fluff, gonna shoot you straight, gonna tell you what works, not gonna waste your time. So I would check out Optimize Me Nutrition. I am not affiliated with that. I don't get anything for recommending that. There are no kickbacks. There are no whatever it is. That is just my honest opinion. And let's see. Oh, and the final one is from Travis B about the BNR cycle. So yeah, that is it. Did I forget anything? I don't think so. I think that's everything. Okay, everybody. That's it. What is today? Thursday, rest day, great day, wherever you are all around the world. Have fun, enjoy your day, keep being awesome. I will see you online. I do the workouts every day. I scale, I modify. We're in this for the long haul, and I'll talk to you later.